Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1145A, and today's date is December 6, 2016, and the title of the episode is Gold About to Explode to the Upside? Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Bix Weir on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you go over to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you right to that video, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the interview on the right-hand side, or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we are getting more and more indicators showing that this economy is pretty much dead in the water. I mean, if those people would like to look at the statistics for unemployment, GDP, look at the stock market, and say, wow, the economy's doing well, you go ahead and do that, because as we know, those are completely manipulated. Actually, if you go back in time and you look at the statistics in the year of 2008, guess what? The stock market was all-time highs, unemployment was very low. Housing, they said, was doing fantastic. The subprime securities were completely contained. There was no problem with them whatsoever. But in the background, behind the scenes, everything was falling apart. And this is what we have right now. And we see in different countries, like in Canada and Vancouver, real estate is starting to fall apart. In Australia, the same thing's happening. Europe is a complete mess. We had the Italian referendum. Next step is a referendum to say, hey, let's leave the EU. We already know there's the Brexit going on. There's going to be the Frexit, and so on. And we know right now the central bankers, they're doomed at this point. Because the people are waking up and they're saying, you know what? We had enough. It's enough of this. It's enough. We've suffered enough, and we don't want it anymore. And they're trying to convince us that, 10.1% for jobs throughout Europe, that's good. 23% in Greece, that's fantastic. They're recovering. And we know this is all a lie. We know that they lie to us. They manipulate the markets. They manipulate the statistics. And then they try to convince us that everything is okay and we should just deal with it. And we can see throughout the world right now, things are rapidly deteriorating. In the UK, retail sales growth slowed in November. Now, it's funny, they like to put spins on the articles, and they try to make it seem like it's doing better than it really is. And we can see the British Retail Consortium said from October 30th to November 26th, sales rose by 1.3%, where they're saying this isn't bad. But if you go back to the previous month, sales were at 1.7%. If you go a month back from that, it was at 2.4%. And just think about this for a second. We're going into the holiday season. These numbers should be going the other way around. It should be 1.3%, 1.7%, 2.4%. But that's not what's happening. Here in the United States, we see the same thing happening. They tell us, yes, people are spending this much money, billions of dollars, and it sounds like, wow, shopping is off to a great start. But then you start looking at the numbers. Then you start realizing, wait a minute. It's a lot less than last year. It's a lot less than the year before that. Is it really that great? No. The holiday season is a disaster. Actually, out in the UK, we see that there are about 250,000 homeless in England. This is coming from UK Charity. They're warning that it is getting worse and worse as time goes on. And they're saying these estimates are low. There's a lot of people that are not even counted. And what we're seeing right now is the system that we are in, it is starting to break down. We see that core durable goods here in the United States, for the 22nd straight month in a row, guess what? They declined on a year-over-year basis in October. This is the longest non-recessionary streak in U.S. history, bar none. And it's just amazing because when you look back in time, you can see every time that we were in this predicament of core durable goods in negative territory, we were already in a recession. And we've been looking at many of these indicators, and they're all pointing to a recession. Actually, we're going into a depression right now. And people are going to be completely shocked when this happens. But of course, the corporate media is out there, and they're making a really big deal about factory orders in America, how they're surging by the most in 16 months. Well, why are they surging? Well, these numbers are before the election. They were being used to boost the idea that the economy is doing well. And where did this all come from? Well, there was a surge in government spending. The government bought a lot of things, which made factory orders surge. And we know this was all done to make everyone believe that the economy is completely recovered. And of course, now what do we have? We have unemployment at 4.6%, manipulated. GDP at 3.2%, exported soybeans to make it 2.9%, then revised the numbers to bring it up over 3.2% because Obama never had a quarter throughout his presidency with GDP over 3%. So he needed that before he leaves office. We have factory orders surging right now. Stock market at the highest it's been. This, again, is a complete setup. But what's very interesting about all of this is that U.S. productivity, well, it only rose by 3.1% in the third quarter, missing expectations of a 3.3% rise. But on a year-over-year basis, the third quarter saw a second consecutive decline. The first two-quarter decline in U.S. productivity since 1993. Now, the Atlanta Fed is out there, and they use estimates to figure out what the GDP is going to be, and they're working on the fourth quarter right now. And in the beginning, they said it was going to be around 2.9%, very close to 3%. Now they cut it already to 2.6%. And again, what they're most likely going to do is they're going to try to keep the GDP up as high as they possibly can, using revisions, manipulation, because we know Obama, well, he's still in the White House until January. And they want this economy looking really, really good before he leaves. Before he hands the gift of the economy off to Trump. Now, as we know, the Fed discontinued QE. Well, this is what they tell the public, but we know they're doing it covertly. And there was a very odd growth spurt in the true money supply. The growth rates of various Austrian measures of the U.S. money supply, such as TMS2 and Money AMS, well, they have accelerated significantly in recent months. And this is surprising, as the Fed hasn't been engaged in QE for quite some time, which we know they're really doing. And when you look at this, you see that as the stock market, the S&P 500 index, continually moves up and up and up, there's a strong correlation with the monetary base. And we can see as the money supply increases, it's just strange how the stock market continually goes up. When the money supply decreases, it's very strange in how the stock market goes down. And we can see this is manipulation. And it's very closely correlated. And we know that they are controlling this entire system through manipulation. And when the manipulation ends, well, so does the economy. Now, very interestingly, the Shariah Gold Standard was approved for 2 Trillion Islamic Finance Market. And the Accounting and Auditing Organization for the Islamic Financial Institution, the AAOIFI, and the World Gold Council have made an important decision which was announced yesterday at the World Islamic Banking Conference in Bahrain. And this decision is about one of the most important markets in the world, the gold market. This market is worth an estimated 2.4 trillion, and it is also of significance for the world of Islamic finance. The AAOIFI has approved what will become known as the Shariah Gold Standard. This is a set of guidelines that will expand the variety of use of gold-based products in Islamic finance. As many as 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, 25% of the population, will have far greater access to the gold market. Now, the Shariah Gold Standard announced yesterday allows over 110 million investors in the Islamic world to invest in vaulted gold, gold savings plans, gold certificates, physical gold ETFs, gold mining shares, and we know three things that the new Shariah Gold Standard will achieve: an increase diversity in the number of available Shariah gold compliant investment products, greater emphasis on the role of physical gold in gold transactions. Islamic finance will have greater say in the setting of the gold price. And we can see that all of this, most likely, if there was no manipulation, would push the gold price up even higher. So when all manipulation ends, when the central bank crashes the economy, we're going to see the true price of gold. It will increase to the upside, and we might even see a little bit of a play of pushing the gold up even further. But since this came into law, you notice how they've been suppressing gold as much as they possibly can to make sure that people don't realize that anything is going on. Now, the mainstream media, they're going all in on promoting a cash ban. In the last 12 months, we see Bloomberg, the Financial Times, the New York Times, they've all written articles supporting the banning of physical cash. And, of course, they use the arguments that this will help stop crime such as money laundering, drug dealing. It will generate major economic growth. But then we have to look at some examples here. If we look at number one, help stop crime such as money laundering or drug dealing. Well, this claim really isn't true. Consider the case in India, where the government recently banned all currency denominations over 500 rupees. And the argument from the government was that their doing this would quickly reveal that most of the money would stay in circulation as part of the black market, thereby justifying the move to get rid of the rupees. Instead, physical cash has poured into India banks. 82% of all physical cash in the denominations that were banned has been deposited. And that was in less than 3 weeks. And by the way, 500 rupees comes to roughly about $7. And we can see right now that India effectively banned all physical cash, claiming that the money would remain in the economy because it was being illegally used. And instead, the money poured into the banks. So we know that cash bans aren't really about cracking down on crime. India just proved this. And number two, the claim that banning cash would generate major economic growth. The only problem is that there is zero evidence of this. The U.S. has maintained ZIRP for 7 years, spent over $3.5 trillion in QE, and generated the weakest recovery, well, actually a fake recovery, in the last 80 years. In Europe, 4 NIRP cuts, going well below zero, negative interest rates, and $1 trillion in QE failed to generate any type of growth at all. Japan, the same thing. So what makes them think that this is going to help? It isn't. What they want to do is control the currency. They want to know where the tax money is. They want to know what you're purchasing, what you're doing. That's what this is all about. Now we see the referendum in Italy was held, and it looks like they're moving towards stepping away from the EU. That hasn't happened yet, but they're going in that direction. And we can see that the EU is preparing to bail out Monte De Paschi, because this bank is going under, just like many other banks. And we see right now they're preparing for a state bailout, which means the people are going to have to fund this bailout. And we know right now that it doesn't matter what they do at this point. It doesn't matter if they bail out this bank. It's a Band-Aid fix, just like Deutsche Bank. It was a Band-Aid fix. The problem still exists. And even if they prop it up, when the system comes down, it's all coming down. And when the system comes down, there's going to be no hope at this point. And according to Bix Weir, your currency that is in the bank is just going to completely disappear. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.